the wave of its innovative wand, Raphael has developed a first-of-its-kind counter-rocket artillery mortar CRAM system with pinpoint accuracy interceptors against asymmetric threats, Iron Dome. In an unprecedented short time, Raphael has met the challenge, offering an innovative CRAM system which has successfully passed a series of challenging tests against a wide variety of threats, proving its outstanding effectiveness. The system includes a Battle Management and Control Unit, BMC, Detection and Tracking Radar, and launchers, each equipped with 20 lethal interceptors. The system is mobile, deployment is rapid, and maintenance is simple and user-friendly. A single launcher protects the area of a medium-sized city or strategic installations. The system can protect stationary or mobile forces against short and medium-range threats. The radar detects and tracks the threat. The data is transferred to the VMC and to the launcher, and from launcher to interceptor. The interceptor seeker achieves very accurate end-game homing. Fully linked to other command and control systems in the arena, Iron Dome exchanges data with other sensors to maximize its combat efficiency and avoid fratricide. The system estimates the tracked threat's points of impact and selects to intercept only those that will fall in the protected area. This prevents unnecessary launches against non-threatening targets and makes Iron Dome a very cost-effective system. The innovative system has proven its capability to detect and home in on small targets flying at high speed and over a large area, even in severe weather conditions. Iron Dome operates automatically, day and night. The system intercepts all short and medium-range threats and destroys them safely outside the protected area. The detonation of the revolutionary interceptor warhead is precisely timed to ensure destruction of the incoming threat's warhead. At an unprecedented pace, Raphael has developed the first-of-its-kind and only operational system in the world for the interception of a wide range of short and medium-range rocket and artillery threats. Iron Dome is a very cost-effective system, selecting out of multiple threats and concentrated salvos only those threats that endanger the protected area. Groundbreaking technological innovation to eliminate the threat of rockets and artillery, and to provide civilians and armed forces with the security they need and deserve. Iron Dome.
Okay. That was just a bit to understand the importance of time to market and getting out a good product. I mean, in mid-November, when there was Pillar of Defense, which was not very fun for us, Iron Dome intercepted hundreds of rockets that didn't land on our people. So that was it's just really important. Okay, now that's Raphael, and let's understand what our environment is like at Raphael when we go back to the CAD. SolidWorks and Raphael, we have around 250 concurrent users. We have 4 separate networks, all of them disconnected from the internet. 2 out of 3 of our divisions designed solely in SolidWorks. The third one Pro Engineer, where I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but they design in Pro Engineer. And we have many of supplementary tools. We use simulation. We use PASS for CMM technologies, QuadriSpace for creating assembly documents, and ECAD, and all different other in-house applications. I belong to the MCAD group. We have 15 people in our group. It's CAD administration. I do the PDM administration plus SolidWorks support and support for all the applications that we write in our group. We have 3 people that develop applications solely for SolidWorks and EPDM. And of course, we take care of all the user support within the company, and we always have our VAR that help us. Our reseller in Israel, we'll discuss that later. Of course, we're also on the lookout. One of the reasons that we're always here at SolidWorks World is to see the new technologies and bring them back to Rafael to make our designers more effective and to get the most we can out of our 3D data. Now, I just wanted to show you that it's very complex. We have lots of authoring systems in Rafael. Each authoring system has its own data management system. I'm not going to go over what's all the different blocks here, but just to understand that we manage our data within management system for the data, and then we pass over whatever's needed for manufacturing to the PDM systems. We have Teamcenter Enterprise at the moment. We're also looking forward for a PLM system. Data management at Rafael. We've been using SolidWorks since 1997, and one of the decisions that were made in the beginning when we were just bringing in SolidWorks is that from day one, we're going to use a data management system. It was almost day one that we started with Smart Team. It didn't go so well. They couldn't. We have very, very large assemblies, as you can understand from the movie the video that I showed earlier. It didn't work out. In 2001, we bought PDMWorks, even before SolidWorks bought PDMWorks from Design Source. Then we've been using Workgroup. We were using Workgroup from 2001. And in 2006, when Conisio was bought by SolidWorks, we kept on listening in what's happening and how it's continuing on. We discussed with lots of people here in SolidWorks World about how it's getting better and better. And 1 year ago, last year during SolidWorks World, we were just in the middle of our implementation process. I wasn't here last year. I was in Israel with our users, but other people from my team were here. And what was our work group implementation like before we moved over to Enterprise? We had 6 vaults on the 4 networks that I discussed earlier, but these vaults were humongous. Like Jim Foster, who wrote Workgroup, from the beginning, I don't think he ever dreamed that someone was going to use it for so many documents. And every time that I was here, whenever I was in a session for Workgroup, like people would say, like, how large are your vaults? And like someone would say 200 gigabytes, 300, and I'm like, 1.5 tera. And so how could we use Workgroup? I don't know how many of you use Workgroup, and how many Enterprise? Okay, so those of you who use Workgroup, you may not understand how hundreds of users can really use a product that is excellent for what it is, but it doesn't give a lot of revision management per se. But we wrote an application that utilizes the PDMWorks API and the lifecycle statuses in order to create a release process within using workgroup. Okay, this is SolidFlow. I'll just give a little bit of how we did it. These are the statuses that we had in workgroup. The green arrows were ones that were automatically done by workgroup, and the red ones were our application. They moved the statuses from one to the other. This is just to show that this workgroup, the SolidFlow application, is very complex. It checks, it does all these different data verification, it sends emails, it doesn't only verify with PDMWorks, it verified with Teamcenter, and did lots and lots of things that workgroup itself doesn't have on its own. And that's how we basically could continue working with workgroup, even though we have such a complex environment. Now, in 2009, Jeff Ray and Kenneth Hallberg visited us at Raphael. There are two things that I remember about that meeting. One, Jeff Ray was saying, I don't know, your implementation of workgroup, it's like a Volkswagen Bug with a rocket engine, and it can't work for that long, for a long time. I mean, you have to move on. And another thing that Kenneth had said is that migration's not an issue, and well, we'll get to that later. In the end, it worked, but it was an issue. And also, there are one other thing that Kenneth said then that I'll mention later when we get to that. But why still? Okay, we were happy with our workgroup implementation, and we had the SolidFlow that we had written in-house. We heard what Jeff Ray had to say, and we understand that the next thing is enterprise. But why still should we move on? We did have stability issues. Whoever's working with really big vaults know that you have to rebuild the vault every day. If something happens in the middle of the day, this rebuild takes like an hour and a half, 2 hours, where the engineers cannot work with the work group. All different things that the vault would freeze. And we had requests to expand the workflow. Like SolidFlow is just very simple. It did what it has to do, but we were asked to expand that. And also, you have to face the facts. Workgroup is not having you don't see any enhancements in Workgroup in the past few years. So we do need to move on. Okay, we have to move on. We have to implement EPDM. We're a large company. We have lots of users, and they're doing very important work, and we don't want to slow them down. They need to continue doing what they're doing without having too much of a problem. How do we minimize the risk factor in moving over from workgroup to enterprise PDM? We broke this down into 3 steps. And when I say we, there are 3 steps, and there are also definitely 3 partners here. It's us at Raphael with our group, and I'll discuss like our whole team who worked on that. But also, we worked very tightly with our reseller, Systematics in Israel, and of course with SolidWorks. It was a lot of effort put on by everyone, also in the SolidWorks team that was helping us. Towards the end of the implementation, we also started the ESS program, so that also really helped with the finalizing of the project. And it's just, you can't do a full migration without help from your reseller. Okay, so what are the 3 stages for the implementation? The first stage was what we called conditional implementation, SIP for short. We'll go into exactly what, but we said that we can't just start implementing with the help of a reseller and that's it. We have our own group that we have to really look into this deeply before we can start. Then there's the production project that's setting everything up and making sure that everything's going to work in the final go live stage. Okay, so what did we have in the conditional implementation? There were 4 main objectives for this stage. First of all, we have this new, work group we knew inside out, and I don't think there were that many people that knew it as well as we do, or even today I think we know it really well. To learn the system, we really sat down. We were the whole, like 3 or 4 of us sat down. I think we read through the whole administrative guide. We had our reseller come and they sat down and helped us go over all of the administrative tasks that we had to do, just to learn the system in order to make the decisions that we needed to make during this implementation process. Okay, we have a release process, this solid flow. We had to see how we're going to implement the same things that we had from solid flow. We needed it for EPDM as well. It's not only changing statuses, it's also sending the data that's needed for manufacturing, the deliverables for manufacturing. It's not the data itself. The data stays in the PDM system, but we need to send the PDFs and the IGES, the step files to manufacturing in order to use them for manufacturing. They need to go to our team center, and that has to be done during our release process. So that was another issue that we had to make sure that we knew what we were going to do afterwards. We had made a detailed design document, and Systematics wrote us a prototype release program, and then with that we also built different building blocks that were going to be used for the final application. And we decided, after checking an add-in and testing add-in or a standalone application, we decided on a standalone application. All this was done during this conditional implementation stage. Before we even started setting up, we did set up some sort of vault, but it wasn't like the real production vault that was going to be afterwards, just tests. Standard part management. We don't have any revision management for our standard parts. We basically need to know that everyone's using the same standard parts, and they're not going to. And we have 6 vaults. We didn't want to have to worry about them not being the same in all of the vaults. We didn't want to start checking them into each of the vaults. So what we ended up doing is leaving our standard parts out of the vault, and they're not managed in the vault. We know that there are lots of, unfortunately, they don't show up on our bill of materials, and we'd love to be able to have them seen on the bill of materials, but not really be put into those vaults, because they'd have to be put into 6 different vaults, and we'd have to always make sure that they're all the same. But this is all done in this conditional implementation, preliminary to the implementation. First of all, last of all, but not least of all, the migration. We had to make sure that all of our data, 2001 till 2000, 10 years of data. We have to make sure that all of that data is going to be in EPDM. We didn't want to leave it in workgroup and then always have to worry about having some way of accessing that data. It's not something that is not heard of in our company, that people will need a file that they used 9 years ago. We have to make sure that all that archive data will be available. Okay, we know that it's not easy to migrate all of it. We wanted to make sure that it was possible. We'll get to it later, what exactly, how we got to the final decision of the 2-stage migration, but that's when we decided it now. During the SIP stage, we knew that we would have to do 2 stages of migration, because a full migration took over 10 days. We had to be really, really, really sure that we wanted all of our data, but we knew that we wanted all of our data in EPDM. But we also know that we can't tell our engineers just go on vacation for 10 days. I mean, if it was one vault and we told everyone to go on vacation for a week, okay, you have, I mean, I think every company has like a week sometime that no one works. But we had 6, or let's say 4 vaults that were huge and needed like 10 days of vacation, and we couldn't do them all at once. So we knew that that wasn't an option. So what we did is we broke it up into 2 stages. The latest, that's when we told everyone, okay, not to work when we're doing the latest. And then afterwards, we did the full migration, and we have actually, instead of 3 of the vaults, or instead of 4 of the vaults, we have 8 vaults. 4 of them that are active, and 4 of them that are archive. But I'll go into that again a bit later. I think I have a slide on that. Okay, that is the conditional implementation stage. We finished that. We made our decisions on how we're going to go about the implementation itself. Now it's time to go and really start the production project of implementation. First stage is recruiting a team. This is a team from Rafael. I'm not talking about a reseller. I'm not talking about SolidWorks. That they always helped us as well. But we need our team to be to help us, and they need. I mean, we need those core IT guys, and we want them to be to be really psyched about this project, and we want them to be to really want to get everything done as fast as possible, so that all of us will succeed. I mean, the whole company needs to succeed, and this is something that's very important. So we got the IT core guys, the DBA guys, our key users. We had them come and see how the implementation is going to look at very early stages. Our SolidWorks support team, I don't mean SolidWorks as SolidWorks support team. In our CAD team, we have our 15 people were all also SolidWorks support team. Besides that, we had the systematics and the ESS, but within Rafael, we also had to set up this team that's going to really be committed to the project. Okay, hardware. There are always the SolidWorks minimum requirements. I put it here. I'm not going to go into it, but make sure that on your SQL server, you have plenty of RAM. That's you always need plenty of RAM. Okay, now storage. You need for the migration and for afterwards, you need lots and lots of storage, at least 3 times the size of your PDMWorks vault. Remember, 1.5 terabyte each one. Lots of storage. That's also part of as long as our storage team, I mean the part of the IT that they're in charge of the storage, as long as they're really committed to this project, they'll make sure that we get the storage that we need. Even if it's temporary storage, we got it really quickly. Okay, so then now, once we have everyone ready, we set up our production infrastructure. All our disk space for the workgroup and for the EPDM archive directories, they're all on network appliance. Okay, that was also an issue during the conditional implementation. We wanted to make sure that it was gonna work. We have our SQL server. We have a cluster. We have a very good DBA team, so we didn't really have to go into all the nitty-gritties of how to put up the SQL server and how to make it work in the best robust environment. Plus, we also set up a test environment. We had to always, also for the migration, we use the test environment, and now we always have our test environment that we work on when we're making changes and stuff and such in the EPDM. We installed the archive server and the database server, the enterprise PDM archive server and database server, and the workgroup server on one machine. This is for the migration. Afterwards, we uninstalled the workgroup server. Once you have the archive on the network, make sure that when you run the services, you use the log-on option for the workgroup service. So this is basically the setup that we have. We have our vaults The archives themselves are in the network appliance, application server, archive and database server, SolidWorks Enterprise, archive and database, and the PDM workgroup server. And here is the SQL cluster. Okay, now on to the migration itself. You want to make sure that the user that will run the migration, that'll have full control of on the workgroup vault, on the archive directory, and run as also for the enterprise and also for the workgroup, have them log on as. When you set up the enterprise system, the enterprise vault, all the settings, you have to look at what you have in workgroup and see what you're going to do in enterprise. Okay, we had our revision scheme. We used to have A/ or -01, 02, B. Then when we went over to enterprise, we realized that the versions there I mean, the best way to do it is A, and then B, and then C, and you have those versions that run along. But you have to set up in the migration, set it up so that it will work. All the statuses that we had in workgroup, we have to make sure to set them up in EPDM as states. Mapping the variables that are important to have afterwards. If you don't map them before you do the migration, all of that metadata, you won't have it in EPDM. Here's just, I guess it's a bug, but it's become a feature. Make sure that there are no MSG files in workgroup, because if there are and there's no Outlook on the server, then it will just stop them. It won't. The migration won't succeed. What we basically did is we set up the permissions for all users. We set them all the different permissions that were needed for all users. We had to set them up. Folder permissions were according to project groups. So if there were different state permissions or transition permissions, all different things that we wanted to do that had to do with the basic use of EPDM, then that we would set up. We have now, all in the all user group. Then the folder permissions are always according to projects. I think that one of the things I didn't really mention before when we're talking about a complex environment, we're a defense company. Security is, I mean, it's just so important. We have, I mean, the different projects, there can be one person working on one project and they have no idea what the person next door to them is working on. You have to really make sure that the permissions work like they're supposed to, and they're according to projects. They're not, I mean, yeah.
I was taught that it was easier to use workgroups to control the privileges of the user. You're saying that you set up each user with the privileges up front?
No. We have, each user can be part of different groups. And the groups give you the permissions for the project. Okay, so you have all users. There's a group, all users. And that group, all users, everyone's part of the all user group. And all of the settings that have to do, I mean, all the permissions that have to do with states or transitions, just that have to do with basic functionality, that we give to the all user group, or for the users. Then, of course, there's the admin groups, and then there are the different people that need different, yeah. But all of those permissions were given to all users. And then when you have to do with folder permissions, which give basic, I mean, I can have permissions to check out at all of the states, but if I don't have checkout permissions on the folder, then I won't be able to check it out. You need both of them. So it's basically we separated the permissions from the functionalities. Okay, so the folder permissions are not set on the all users. Okay, now when you remember that simple flow that I had shown before of what the statuses in workgroup were like, that's basically what we thought we'd have to set up in the work group, in the migration workflow. But, I mean, this is what we thought it would look like. A little bit more than what we had before, but that didn't quite work out. This is what our migration workflow looked like. But don't worry, I mean, everything went through all that spaghetti. We always used to call it, you have the spaghetti workflow around. This is just because in workgroup, you can change every status to every status, and it just happened because someone called us and said, well, I can't do something, and then we would look at it and say, okay, I guess we'll move it to that different state, and then you'll be able to do it then. Don't worry though, but our final workflow, this is what it looks like. I mean, it's okay, it's workable. It's not like the migration one. Okay. So basically what we did when we were setting up the migrations is basically we created an empty vault and we set up all user permissions that we needed, and then the group we set up what permissions we would need for each for what we would need, all the different settings that on the vault that we would need. And then basically we exported this into an export file so that we know, I mean, we have 6 vaults, so each vault we had to migrate separately. So we had to make sure that we would keep it as unified as possible. So we would export, we put together the whole vault the way we needed it, all the permissions and settings that we wanted, and then we exported this. We set up a whole Excel file of exactly what permissions each user and group, I mean, not user, each group needed. Actually, there is a user that's used by SolidFlow that we also had to make sure that we always got the permissions right. So we have to be very, very organized. I mean, I put together a document that told exactly what has to be done before you do the migration to set everything up to work, and then during the migration, and then after the migration. I mean, there was one of the migrations I couldn't be there. Someone else was there. They did it with this document, and it worked just 100%. You have to be very, very, very careful to do it, especially if you're doing a lot, more than one, and you want them to be the same. Okay? You have to give admin full permissions on all states and transitions, because that's the user that runs the migration. And it doesn't help if you have a transition and the user that's running the migration can't use it. You have to create a local view on a network drive. Well, with us, everything's a network drive. You don't, and they have to be viewable by all users. That's for the migration to work. Then relocating the vault to the network. Okay, this is all of these relocating to the network. We know that network lowers the usability, but for security reasons, not usability, they lower the performance. But because of security, we have to have everything. We can't have anything on the local drives. So everything, we have everything on network. Okay, just a few tips and tricks, because it's just like these things that you have to make sure that, I mean, different things that we learned when doing the migration. You don't really want to allow duplicate file names in your vault. But while you're doing the migration, just allow it. I mean, we found one time it said that something was duplicate. It wasn't duplicate because workgroup didn't allow duplicate names either. But for some reason it thought it was a duplicate. Allow duplicate names in the post-operation after migration, take it off. Admin permissions. You need check in, check out in all of the, make sure that you don't have any of the stop. You can do all these different things that will stop a check in or check out. Make sure that you don't have any of those check in or check out here in the admin tool, in the warnings. You make sure that on the settings for the admin, if you know the admin tool, then there you have include drawings automatically. it just makes it slower when you're doing the migration. And before you press the button to start the migration, start the import, make sure that the admin user can check in a file and check them out. Maybe you made a mistake on the way. Just different things that are important to do as you're going along. Okay, our results. We had over 600,000 unique documents, over 2 million versions, and over 4.5 terabytes of data. I don't know, if you don't know the migration, then what's important to know is it's basically there are 2 stages. One is exporting from the workgroup, and then the other is the import. These are the times that it took us for 4 of the main vaults. There were 2 of the 6 vaults, there are 2 that are small and 4 that are large. And this is how long it took us to export them all. The import. These are all the tests that we did. I think it was no, this is the final percentages and time that it took for each of the imports. You have to set everything up to know exactly when you're gonna do the export, when you're gonna do the import, and what times you have to be there to do the extra, all the next, pressing the buttons for next. It's not something that you just press a button, go home, and come back 272 hours later. But this is what. Okay. How are we time-wise? Okay. One more thing that we always have to, that it's very important, and it's one of the strategic procedures that we're always, that's important to do for all of our systems, disaster recovery procedure. Now, we always make sure that you have redundancy as much as possible. For SQL, we have a cluster. But besides that, we have, besides our servers in one place, we make sure that we have a separate server in another place, and we have to make sure that this server is always up to date, so that if, I don't know, if that whole, the computer, the main server room is all flooded and everything goes, then to make sure that within a day you can continue working as if nothing happened. So for our, it's something that we knew that when we were starting this project. I think Workgroup was one of the first of our systems at Raphael that did the disaster recovery procedure. And we knew that we can't start with EPDM without having that disaster recovery procedure put in place. So we set this up with the help of our SolidWorks, and we have someone with the ESS program. We had someone help us to make sure that what we were going to do was viable, that it was good that it would work for EPDM. So basically, we have here on the left, it's basically what I had shown you before of setting up the production environment. So this environment we have on the right side. You see the red line is showing that it's in another area. And we have there an archive server that the services are always off. They're not being used as long as everything else is working. The services are manual and they're always stopped. We have a network appliance there that's always taking those archive files and replicating them. We have an SQL server. The SQL has log shipping synchronization, and that is an SQL feature that we always have an SQL server that is read-only every day. I mean, it's always available. It's read-only, and it's synced with the production SQL at the same time that the network appliance is being mirrored. this basically gives us that if where this red line is detached, we just do, we have a whole procedure that we just change the name so that the archive server gets the same name as the archive server in production, and then everyone can continue working as if nothing really happened. I mean, they'll feel, they might have their computers may freeze for a minute or so, but afterwards it'll just start working as if nothing happened. Now, while we were implementing, while I was working on that migration, and our whole team, I mean, part of the team that was working on all of the settings and everything that we needed for for all of the administrative side of Enterprise PDM, our development team within our CAD group was working on the SolidFlow application. Now, they had to design the SolidFlow that would work with Enterprise PDM. So how did they set it up? The title block application that we have at Raphael we've had it for years, basically is where all the information is put in. We get our part numbers from ERP through this title block and from application. And then we added there all different extra information that we needed for the SolidFlow application to work. Because what we basically did is if SolidFlow for Workgroup PDM, it had its own sort of file system database like Workgroup has. It had its own, 1 second, let's take a sip of water. So if in this old SolidFlow had its own database, here we decided that we're not going to have anything separate out of Enterprise PDM. So everything that we needs to be in the variables. It has to be in EPDM. So then that's why this title block had to be changed a bit, just to add the extra information that we needed for the SolidFlow. So the SolidFlow application is broken up into a few different sides, a few different applications. It has the wizard is basically it does the variable checks, and it creates the deliverables. The wizard is used when an engineer opens a drawing and then turns on the wizard, and they have variable checks, and the deliverables are created, and then they're sent off for the reviewer to review them and then to approve or to reject them. The reviewer uses a manager tool, a manager application, and there they approve the drawing. And basically what happens here is this application does the transitions. The users don't do the transitions themselves because we were scared that, we didn't, if the user does the transition themselves, then they wouldn't be able to create all of those the deliverables and sending it all in to the reviewer. It's done a lot with a lot of different interfaces with our Team Center Enterprise and everything. And once the manager approves the drawing, the deliverables are sent off to the Team Center, and a mail is sent to the designer. Okay. Okay, now we were finished with writing the SolidFlow. We have everything set up. We've done test drives on all the migrations. We know how long it's going to take. This is how we did the go live. When, I don't know, here everyone works from Monday through Friday. In Israel, we work Sunday through Thursday. We don't work on Fridays, but we work on Sundays. So what we did is every migration that we had to do of these 4, on Wednesday at 5 o'clock we told everyone we're turning off the work group, and then we did the export. Thursday morning, everyone came to an auditorium, and we did the training. We trained them in a whole day. We had Amit come from Systematics, our reseller, and he gave half a day of training in enterprise PDM. Then we gave training on how exactly we did the implementation, different little things that you need to know in order to use the EPDM the way we want them to use it. And then also a little bit on the solid flow that everyone needs to, in order to continue sending their drawings to manufacturing. This is basically, and then after that Thursday that they had the training, we were basically, while we were giving the presentation, every so often we'd go into a little room on the side to look at what's going on with the migration. If we were talking about the export was done during the night, and then in the morning we did a validate. Validate takes like an hour and a half, and we would go in behind the curtain and check what's going on with the validate. Is it finished yet? If it's finished, then we would send it, have it continue, and then we'd come back on Saturday night to check what's going on to make sure that Sunday morning when we came in at 6 o'clock in the morning to get everything ready and make sure that also we had to do installation of the client on all of the clients. So we came in 6 o'clock in the morning to make sure that those were going to be done. And then when the engineers and all the users came in on Sunday at 8, then we had what's called user support, or intense user support. Our whole group of our whole CAD support team, we would go and just like walk around to make sure that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing and can continue their work, even though we changed the EPDM. And of course, there's always the one or two that didn't come to the training that they were supposed to, and so we helped them during that extra support period. And then, of course, there's the full migration. That didn't have to be done right the same day that we started with the latest, because worst comes to worst, we could always, it happened that someone needed something and we were still not finished with the full migration, so we went back to work group. Now it's not the big deal to start a service of work group and then get that file that someone needed that wasn't in the latest migration. Okay. First, before I go on to the next slide, I want to just say one more thing. Is when I mentioned that, like in 2006, the year that I think it was actually 2007, the year after Conisio, SolidWorks bought Conisio and then started with the whole enterprise PDM line. I think that was 2007. I think was in New Orleans. I met with someone who was using Conisio from way back, and like every time that I would meet up with him, we would discuss like how our implementation's going and how everything's coming along. And we'd also every so often, like maybe once in the middle of the year, we would send an email to each other just to see what's going on. And when I knew that I was going to be giving this presentation, right away I just said, okay, I'll send off an email to him and see if he can come, and just not see if he can come. It was obvious that he was going to come. And this person is Wayne Tiffany, and I'm really very touched that his sons are here in this. And that's really sad to say that, that he's not here with us. But I just wanted to say that as well. And just to end in a lighter one of the things that we do in our company, in our CAD group, is bringing technologies to Raphael to try and use our 3D data in other parts of the company, not only in the engineering. Iron Domes assembly line now has three-dimensional assembly procedure documentation. I'll just show you one example. It's a very small example. It's not even the latest ones that we have been doing lately, but it's just fun. It's important to always try and see new things. We use QuadriSpace to create these documents. And it's just, I mean, just to think, I mean, we might end up just to see that this is the way that on the assembly line, I'm just clicking them to sort of, I'll jump ahead a bit. I mean, these are the people that are on the assembly line. These are the procedure that they use in order to know what to do next. They press these next, next, next in order to understand fully what needs to be done during the assembly process. And this is just like one of the little things that we like always are looking for, are new technologies. I'm basically finished here. Does anyone want to ask anything? Anyone have any questions? Okay, so thank you very much. Okay.